Oh, sorry, guys. So, Mandi, singer again. I have been spending the last several days going through evidence that Shawn has regarding the crimes committed against him by numerous law enforcement authorities across numerous jurisdictions and also crimes committed against him in the Lincoln County Corrections when he was incarcerated last year. This video is going to be going over the numerous kites, which are prisoner request forms, or the forms here state inmate interview request, that Shawn filled out to go to Sarah Nelson, who is the assistant warden at LCC that was just arrested for sexual abuse on a prisoner and some other charges. The link is in the previous video of Shawn's, and we will put the link for the article in the comment section of this one as well. When this news popped up, he was able to bring this evidence out and show me what I'm about to verify. Mind you, there is a lot of evidence spanning 5 years worth of documented abuse and harassment and death threats, and documented attempts to turn it in, and documented attempts to deny him the right to turn it in, being that Shawn is autistic, he is an at-risk adult, and these are all felonies. I am looking at a stack of these kites, or inmate interview request forms, that were sent to Sarah Nelson, who was part of the inmate prisoner support. And that meant that if they were having problems with the guards, they could go to this department and they would take care of it. 328, he filled one out, and she responded to him. Basically, he was saying that the staff on C2 are using IPS to blackmail, retaliate for me speaking up and writing grievances. This is not what I signed up for. I reached out to IPS because Haight, Jensen, Masodi, and Nawi are trying to bully me to suicide. I stopped yard and showers to reduce their ability to harm me. Now, I have to stop eating because breakfast and lunch today were used to bully/blackmail me. I need help. I'm trying to read the handwriting. They are unsupervised on the weekends, and it's hell. They are trying to bully me to suicide. And her response was, Mr. Schwartz, staff have the authority to approve or deny a request for IPS services. If you would like to meet with someone, specify, please. Send me an inmate interview request, and I can get it scheduled as long as the peer support is willing. Kind of questionable there, because if you're asking for the peer support, inmate peer support, that's what it stands for, services, and they say, no, we're not going to let you because we don't want you to report us. That sounds pretty, that's not okay. I don't care what policy is. If it's policy, it needs to be changed. It's not okay. 328. He filled out another one. I need an inmate from legal aid to come speak with me as soon as possible. And she noted library's been notified. I also need IPS to be able to see me. And he goes on to talk about it. And she said, you are receiving rights from IPS. It's much easier to manage when there are planned / scheduled in advance so that peer support can receive a pass. Both of these are in the same day. 422, again, he submits a request thanking Robert Norfolk, Alvin Easton, Richard Ollinger, and Lucky Irwin Wong. I can't say that last name, sorry. They were kind to him. The staff are often cruel, and IPS has prevented harm from staff and other harm against me. She said, I'm happy to hear you've had a positive experience with peer support. And then it goes on. 423 is another lengthy one. And she responds, which is good. He's talking about an incident that happened and some supplies that he needed. And she also responded. These are very lengthy. I'm going to work on transcribing these because reading them is going to take a lot more time on this video than I want. He then filled out another one. It was denied. So he refilled it out. You can see the two. This one, no response. So this time, no response. Another one on 410. I need someone from IPS to come see me. This place is killing me. Again, schedule a pass. Speak with your supporter if you like the pass scheduled. And after that, all of his IIRs that he's done on the 11th, same thing. She is telling him to schedule a pass. She's not really taking it beyond where he needs it to go. When he asked to turn her in, she refused to respond. There's a stack of these. These are all, and there's a lot more information in here than I've read. Like I've said, it's going to take up a lot more time, but I verified that he tried repeatedly to ask for support to report abuses that were happening to him within the facility, and he was denied. Interesting enough, she has now been arrested for sexual assault on an inmate, and the other charge I can't pull off the top of my head. So yes, his attempt to turn in one of his predators and abusers, and how she, first tells him, well, we have the authority to deny or approve, and then goes on to start giving him canned responses every time he's trying to get help or to go and turn her in for the lack of support that he's receiving. And then for the next one I'm bringing up, this is for Corporal Michelle Dicini. She was also arrested for same charges from LCC. And this is a kite where IIR, where Shawn had notified her that there was an inmate talking about his plans to assault her. And so he made sure that she was aware of it to save her life, because it was a pretty serious assault. So, and she's gone on to become a predator. Surprise, surprise. There's also, oh boy, stack down there. Copies. He did illegally get copies of all of these that he turned in. And there's a lot that I have not been able to go through each one and categorize them and organize them, because that's just a fraction of the evidence that we have. And then another one that has been in the news articles was Michelle Quinn of Garden County Sheriff's Department. Now, anything and everything that happened to Shawn at Garden County Sheriff's, or through the Garden County Sheriff Department when he was in jail there, had to be approved by the warden, Michelle Quinn. And she was told what to do from Scott Decoste. So when he went to file this report, it's 3 pages, about Deuel County Sheriff's Department, they stole his phone. Scott Decoste repeatedly obstructed justice and Shawn's attempts to turn in his predators, including his officers. He was denied from filing this. They said absolutely not. They wouldn't allow it. And that was under the order of Michelle Quinn, who was investigated and arrested for 3rd-degree assault, domestic violence. And that leads into how I have gone ahead and actually reviewed the video that Shawn has posted called Scott Decoste Bad Day. And I have lots of notes on that. Shawn was very clear at the beginning that he needed help, but he did not want Sheriff Scott Decoste to come to where he was at. And the Pam, the Nebraska State Patrol lady who answered the phone when he called, refused. She said, "Where's your address at? Where are you at?" When he said, "Who are you sending?" "Whomever I deem necessary." She did not stop and listen to his concerns. At the very beginning of the call, the minute he identified himself, her tone changed. And this is a video you guys can go view. The video goes on that after the phone call ends abruptly with the Nebraska State Patrol, he calls a friend of his, Star, and I can't pronounce her last name, and they talk for a little bit, and then you can hear the cop knock at his door. And that was Sheriff Scott Decoste. And it was at that time that Shawn called 911, explained the situation, and they transferred him to the Nebraska State Patrol. And then while he was talking this time to Jess from the Nebraska State Patrol, hold on a minute, you can hear as he's explaining the situation, and he says, I asked for your help. I asked for you to send somebody, not Sheriff Decoste. You sent Sheriff Decoste. What's going on? And yes, he gets upset. How would you feel if you had just been beaten down or you had been abused and you called for help and they sent the person who abused you to come help you? That is not professional. During the course of that video, they do end up sending Trooper Barr out to the location to speak with Scott, and they have a very lengthy conversation to speak with Shawn, where Shawn explains everything that's going on, has been going on, how he had started back in 2017 trying to turn in people who were harassing him on the internet, which I have verified the harassment from Ted Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger on his grandmother's funeral. That is not deep fake. That is actual messages he had gotten. I have verified the very numerous messages from Tim Beeson threatening Shawn repeatedly, telling Shawn, give me your address, where you at, I'm coming. These are death threats, and they should be taken very seriously, and he was not taken seriously when he tried to turn that in. And so after that is when he started having problems with, when he tried to turn in Alicia Bollinger and Ted Bollinger from his grandma's funeral, that he started having problems with the deputies. And Scott Decoste advised him, if you have problems with my deputies, then please come to me, which he did. And that did nothing. So when he tried to go up, which is what we are supposed to be allowed to do, can I talk to your supervisor? All you Karens out there know those magic words. Let me talk to your supervisor. He was told to contact the Nebraska State Police or State Patrol. They told him it wasn't their job to police the police. And in this video, you can see Trooper Barr tell him, oh, well, I've talked to Woods, and there's another one. I don't have my notes handy at the moment, actually. I will pull them up here. And I know a lot of the videos that Shawn posts can be lengthy, and not everybody has the attention span to be able to sit through and absorb all this information. They would rather just shut up and click on. We're all trained to do the 3-minute TikToks, and that's about it. So with the video concerning Scott Decoste, one of the things that concerned me is that you can hear Decoste in the video prior to Trooper Barr showing up. After Jess advises him, if there's a sheriff at your door, answer the door. That is a direct quote, which you would not tell somebody, oh, if the rapist is at your door, answer the door. You wouldn't do that. And Shawn keeps explaining to her. She says to him that the report had been taken and had been passed along. Well, let's see, one of the other ones. I'm sorry, I'm skipping back and forth. Let me get back on track. So after she tells him to answer the door, he repeats again that the sheriff at his door is his predator and the person he's trying to turn in. Jess replies, This is the Nebraska State Patrol, not the Sheriff's Department, which makes no sense. It continues with Shawn repeating the information. Jess then advises Shawn that his case is passed along to an investigator. Shawn asks who the investigator is, and Jess says, and I quote, "Sir, it is now 8 o'clock. They come on and come off at different times of the day. We have passed it along." That is not procedure and policy. If you call up and say, "I filed a report, who is the investigator?" they tell you who they passed it along to. Mind you, this is a report he filed in 2018 that he is calling about today to still try to get help. You can then hear a very loud knock, very loud. And you hear Decoste yell at Shawn, "Shawn, come on now. You come out and talk. You are going to come out and talk to me. You wanted to talk to me. You started calling them. So now I am here." What is wrong with that statement? I called the Nebraska State Patrol to ask for assistance to report you for crimes you have committed. And instead, they send you to my door after I specifically and repeatedly told 2 different people answering the phones at Nebraska State Patrol that I don't want to speak to you. They send you out, and then you wanted to talk to me. You started calling them. That is not an appropriate thing to happen. That is wrong in so many levels. Shawn responds, "No, sir, I was just trying to turn you in." So then he's going on to explain how he's needing immediate assistance and continues on to the conversation. It's a very long video. So during this time is when she advises him after the conversation's going back and forth. Shawn repeats himself. Jess repeats herself, never acknowledging what Shawn is saying. And finally, she advises him there's a state trooper outside, and that is Trooper Barr. And so Trooper Barr finally announces himself, and Shawn lets him in, and they start talking. And they have a very long conversation. And Shawn is explaining to him everything that's been happening, all of the failure for the Decoste and his deputies of Deuel County to file these reports Shawn has been trying to file against his predators and his perpetrators. And so that is when Trooper Barr advises that he had already spoken to 2 investigators. One was Sergeant Jones, and the other was Investigator Woods. Shawn, tells him, "Nobody's called me. Nobody's contacted me." So that's when Trooper Barr asks him, "Well, what evidence? Can you please write it out?" Shawn's explaining, "This is 4 years of stuff. I can't do it." Goes on and on. These are my notes, pages. And I don't know if you can see pages and pages I typed up on the computer. So finally it ends where Barr tells Shawn that if he will write it all down, all the events down on paper. And again, Shawn's explaining, "I can't write it all down. I have all this evidence." So Barr then tells Shawn that there's a lot more that happens in the conversation, but he tells Shawn, "Hey, I need to step out for a minute." And he leaves. That was at 1 hour, 27 minutes, 40 seconds. He comes back in at 1 hour, 29 minutes and 11 seconds and advises Shawn that Shawn will be taken into custody. This is when they arrest him. They release him that night. But they arrested him, saying that he had obstructed government operations. And that is a part of this file, which says, let's see, obstructing government operations, resisting arrest. They let him loose, only to later come back in January of 2021, arrest him on this, arrest him on a stalking charge against Robert Warnick, and on a stalking charge against William Barr. None of which, all 3 of these, they were dismissed. They were dismissed with insufficient evidence to support conviction because state is unable to locate previously recorded conversations and victims involved do not wish to testify at trial. And that makes me wonder, how is, I know it's backwards, how is obstructing government operations and resisting arrest by the state, this is not a private citizen, by the state, suddenly lose their previous recordings and the witness doesn't want to testify? Those numerous calls to 911 are recorded. Every call made, every call taken, they're all recorded. So they should have had the evidence to easily convict him, and they didn't. The other one is the Robert Warnick, right here. This one has me the most concerned because it states here that Robert Warnick states that he wanted to pursue charges against Shawn for harassment. And it talks about Shawn posting a video to Facebook about Robert, who is on the Nebraska Sex Offender Registry. That's not illegal. It's public knowledge. You can look it up. Anybody can look up the Sex Offender Registry for anywhere you live, and it is not illegal to let other people know there is a sex offender. It is illegal to incite violence, but it is not illegal to say, hey, Shawn was not inciting violence. He was protecting himself because he had already had numerous death threats and tried to get protection against Robert Warnick. And then Robert goes on to talk about a couple of other incidences. This is the one that concerns me. On January 23rd of 2021, Robert was inside his home when he heard voices outside his home. Robert looked out and saw Shawn outside his home filming his residence and saying his name. None of that is illegal. It is allowed. He's not on private property. He's not peeking through the window. He can do whatever he wants. We can all do that. We've seen all the videos on the internet. You can do it. It's not illegal. Robert confronted Shawn and slapped the phone from his hands. That is a confession of assault. And yet Shawn was denied being allowed to file charges against Robert Warnick for that same assault. He had marks on his wrist and he has the phone that is destroyed. The phone that also had a lot of evidence showing previous harassment and abuse from Robert Warnick. The next one is the stalking charge against Shawn, again dropped, and this one was pressed up by William Barr. And what William Barr states is that Shawn had messaged him. Well, there's a lot here, but one thing is Shawn had messaged him, said, would you like to have an interview on my channel, or should I give the world your name and number? And William Barr said, stop harassing me and my family. Don't call us, text, or talk with us. You cannot tell somebody not to talk about us. And again, I know it's reversed and I've got a lot of lighting, but this is these messages. I pulled them off the phone that Shawn sent them from. I screenshotted them and I made sure to get them off that phone and documented. Would you like to have an interview on my channel, or shall I give the world your name and number? Not illegal to give out somebody's name and number, especially if it's public record. Stop harassing me and my family. Don't call us, text, or talk about us. Shawn says, too late, bitch. Talked to Rick yesterday. You lying ass murderer. All of the Martindales are safe. However, put my family at risk. You will tell the truth or you will pay the price. And that is the only thing mentioned in this affidavit. Goes on to say, the differences between you and I are that I am honest, you are not, and that you are willing to kill people, I am not. And you have a gun, I do not. This is what Shawn's saying. You are the only one stupid enough to think I would harm Jessica or Jack. Not their fault. You are a bad person. You will never receive another message or call from me. The next one will be from my lawyer. That is what the price. Pay the price. You will be contacted by my lawyer. That is not threatening. That is not stalking. That is not harassing. Charges were dropped. These follow Shawn around. These are hanging over his head. Yes, order to dismiss. but it's without prejudice, and it is ruining his life. They, at the time they arrested him, and I viewed this video as well, they arrested him, and then later a different jurisdiction came in and took all of his evidence out of the motel room that he was in. The day before, he was going to turn them in with all of the evidence he had electronically. They lock him up. They shuffle him from facility to facility across multiple jurisdictions. Leave him in prison as part of a inmate program because Deuel County doesn't have their own jail, and leave him there for months and months and months. And it is during that time that he is in that prison for months and months and months that he has filled out numerous forms, made numerous documentations of the abuse, tried to report it numerous times, and was denied. People want to say that he's schizophrenic. They want to say that he is crazy, that he is mentally ill. None of that is true. He is not schizophrenic. He has documented that from a licensed mental health professional who is qualified to diagnose that. He's not mentally ill. He's actually the sanest person I know. He doesn't do drugs. I've known Shawn for 8 years. He does not do drugs. I have never known him to do drugs at all. Does he have a trauma response? Absolutely. Does he have autism? Absolutely. That doesn't mean he's a bad person or he's crazy. Just because he operates on a level and processes on a level that is different from the neurotypical people doesn't mean he's less than anything. He's a very, very intelligent man. So interesting enough, people he has tried to turn in and report for corruption and abuse, 3 of them so far. We've got his statement from Garden County. She beat her girlfriend up. And the Nebraska State Patrol investigated that. Dicini, whose life he saved, well, she's now in jail and looking at prison time for having sexual relations with an inmate. Sarah Nelson, who kept blowing him off and would not address his issues and telling him, oh, speak to your supporter, schedule a session, or what they would call schedule a pass, but not actually address his issues. Well, she's going to be very protected as a sex offender in prison, also as a previous prison guard. They're going to have to protect her because otherwise she's going to be real popular with Big Betty and Mama Bertha in the women's ward. Doesn't matter. She will definitely, yeah. So here he had been hollering for at least a year about 3 people, and everybody said, nope, Shawn, you're wrong. And he was kept from reporting it, and now it's on media. These 2, national media right now. Look it up. I suggest that everybody stops running with the narrative that Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger and Mandi Boa started. I know of Mandi Boa from my time in Boulder. She is not a reliable person. She causes a lot of problems. I avoided her at all costs. I knew a lot of the source kids. I knew a lot of the street kids that were under 18 in passing. We don't mess with minors on the streets. And when I say we, I mean the good people. If you are under 18, you need to go home, or you need to go to the source and get there where you need to be. You need to get away from the predators. You need to get away from the drug dealers. Go home. That's where you belong. If home is that bad, go somewhere safe, but you can't be here. He is not a stalker. I have verified numerous texts or Facebook messages with him and Natalie. She confessed to love him. She expressed love for him. She invited him to go to Virginia. She expressed how she wished she could spend more time with Shawn while he was in Virginia, and how she regretted that she had to depend upon her sister Alicia to be there due to the injury to her leg when she tried to commit suicide by running her car into a tree. I verified that. He pulled up his Facebook, pulled up his messenger. I read all that. He did run into her when she was underage, long enough to tell her that she needed to go home. He found her and her sister in the sleeping bags with Emery and Arturo. Natalie confirms that in her Facebook messages that I read, where Shawn pulled up his Facebook, pulled up the messages, clicked on the profile, verified that was her. It's not deep faked. She thanks him for that when he ran her off and ran her out of the park. And then she tells him that it was shortly after that they ended up going into foster care because Alicia had turned in their dad for hitting them. That's just in the Facebook messages. I've seen the email where she also talks about how he sexually abused her. And that's really sad. So yeah, he ran her off. When he did run back into her, he messaged both her and her sister on Facebook. Hey, how you doing? Very casual, nothing creepy or nothing more than, hey, just a friend. And he didn't hear back from her for a while. By the time he did hear back, she was already an adult. She was over the age of 18. And her response was that she was excited to see him. And she had just could not stop thinking about him since she had ran back into him. That doesn't sound like somebody who's being stalked. I may have gotten off a tangent on my initial video. I was only going to make this a shorter one, just addressing the issue in the prison, but it ties together. And that brings up one more. A report out of Longmont by Kerra Miles, where she says, in a report concerning a case which involved Kerra Miles was calling the police about a civil issue involving serving restraining orders. So she wanted them to serve him on restraining orders because being homeless and transient, they couldn't pinpoint where he was, and they didn't take a page out of Natalie's playbook and call him up and say, hey, you want to make peace? Meet me at Starbucks. I'll be there in 30 minutes, and then never show up to have him served, which is illegal. Instead, she writes out this huge report where she says, Shawn was a transient in Boulder when Natalie and her twin sister, Alicia, hung out during some foster situation several years ago when Natalie and Alicia were 12 years old. Now, Natalie, in her Facebook messages, and this is, I know it's backwards. Maybe you can read it a little bit. I can read backwards. If you can't, sorry about your luck. He didn't hang out with them then at all. He did not want to hang out with them then. He ran back into her in April. I believe it was April of 2016 when their messages started. He goes on to say Shawn and Natalie became friends. Shawn, Natalie, and Alicia became friends. Over the years, they communicated mostly by Facebook. From the time their Facebook messages started until the time they stopped was 6 months. That's it. He left in October of 16. 1 month later, sent her 2 messages saying that he was being assaulted, being accused of stalking her, being accused of being a predator, of being a pedophile, and he needed her to stop the rumors and the lies because that's where it was coming from. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what they teach kids in school. That's what I'm supposed to do in my housing. If I have an issue with one of my neighbors, I need to go talk to them first before I go to the office. Not that my neighbors listen and they just run to the office rather than talk to me, but I'm the adult. I digress. Then it goes on to say how in late 2017, Natalie moved to Virginia and Shawn invited himself to visit her. Well, by late 2017, that never happened. She was in Virginia in 2016. She moved in late 2016 to Virginia, mid-summertime, I would say. And Shawn never invited himself. In the Facebook messages, Natalie tells him that she doesn't want to go to Virginia, even though it's the best thing. She wishes she's suicidal. She's thinking about committing suicide, and it would just be better if she knew that he could be there. She invited him. Shawn refused to leave, which spurred police contact. That didn't happen. Natalie and Alicia invited him. Alicia spent almost every day with Shawn. They spent his birthday with him. There are messages from Natalie saying, what do you want for your birthday? What kind of cake, present? That's not somebody being stalked. When they did have their falling out over a misunderstanding over a broken phone that Alicia gave Shawn, he left. Shawn continued to contact Natalie and Alicia and would threaten them with statements like, you have 3 days to come clean with what your family did or I'll kill you. He didn't start contacting them until months after the abuse had started in Colorado. Months. This is another example of a statement, a legal statement being submitted to the police that is false. It is lies. That is a crime. Little Miss Kerra Miles not only impersonated an autism advocate to abuse Shawn, which is also a crime, she then lies about him in legal documents. It goes on and on and on about the incident, which Shawn didn't lie about. The arson incident, he has never lied. That's concerning because all of Shawn's haters, all you trolls, the Bollingers, Rose Kelly, I can name a lot of them, have taken information that was not real nor verified and have gang stalked and abused and harassed this man for 5 years now. 5 years. Y'all have nothing better to do with your time. That reflects the amount of idiocracy that we have in our society today. I have mountains of evidence to continue to go through. I haven't gotten through all of the evidence concerning Decoste, or even beginning with that. I have seen the way that he was intimidating Shawn in that video. You wanted to talk to me. You started calling them. Here I am. Come talk to me now. That's an intimidation tactic that is very well known within law enforcement to try to intimidate other people who don't know any better. Another intimidation tactic was the one by William. Let me find here. Okay. William Barr, where, and it's not so much as an intimidation tactic as it is a discrediting tactic, where he states here that Shawn had told him that he was schizophrenic and did drugs. You cannot call somebody schizophrenic. You can't. You can't give somebody a mental health diagnosis unless you're a mental health professional. And you cannot use their mental health as the basis for reporting false crimes against them and discrediting them. People with mental health are protected under ADA. It is a disability. It is a felony and a federal crime to gang stalk an at-risk adult, which from what I have seen so far since started really, I mean, I've been going through it a little bit here and there with some of his videos, but since Monday, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, I have yet to find one piece of evidence where Shawn has lied. Not one. Mountains and mountains of evidence. Longmont, Sheridan, more Longmonts. I haven't even gotten through this stack because of the LCC sex offenders that we just discovered. It was in this huge ass stack of information, just so anybody else wants to see. Lots of it. And I'm not going anywhere. You can want to bully me or intimidate me or threaten me or try to threaten my family, but I am here to verify his information, to verify the amount of harassment and abuse he has gone through. And as I said in my previous video that I did, if you bring me solid evidence and show me the receipts showing him he's wrong, I will be willing to look at it. You cannot go off of a Facebook post made by a very disturbed young woman that has no evidence in it at all that he has done the things she claimed, especially when all the evidence that has come to light since has shown he didn't do those things. When she is cordial and seemingly friendly through text messages asking to talk so they can stop the crazy and stop the fighting, and sets him up to be served a restraining order. Not allowed to contact the respondent once you file the temporary restraining order. You're not. You can't. You have to have it served through a third party. That was not okay. And the same day she did that, she's telling Tim Beeson that she's afraid for her life. You can't be afraid for your life and ask somebody to meet you so you can squash the turmoil and make peace. I am a victim of domestic violence. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I'm a survivor of sex assault. I am a survivor of stalking. I would never call my predator or text my predator or ask to meet with them, no matter how public the place is, to squash the issue. I wouldn't, especially if I had gotten a restraining order against them. I definitely wouldn't then. I would leave it up to the authorities to serve that and have my day in court. I hope you guys start this nose, not this nose. Get beyond this, get into this, and stop being a part of the problem. Stop feeding into the gang violence. I will be back. I will be doing a lot more videos proving all of this. And as one last note before I end, for anybody says, why didn't he report this on the ic3.gov website? Have video of that too. I tried. It took me numerous times to get the website pulled up, and then it goes down. It just blinks out and goes right back to my home screen. Doesn't allow me to do anything. Watch for those. Until then, do better and be better and have the life you deserve. I actually covered it all in that. I did. I got it.